Thanks for listening to Exploring the Wine Glass podcast, the podcast for people who love wine. I'm Lori Budd, a UC Davis winemaking program and WSET Level 2 graduate. You can find Exploring the Wine Glass on all the socials as well as your favorite podcast catchers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. I promise I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass. Welcome to Exploring the Wine Glass podcast. On this series that I have now renamed The Allure of the Poor, I sit down with Roger Bissell. About 1 year ago, I was invited to a master class on the wines of Macedonia. I was intrigued. I had never had wine from there and thought it would be an excellent educational experience. I was so happy after the class to find out that I was right. Roger Bissell, the Master Somm, who ran the class, was not only informative, but entertaining. After the class, we chatted a bit, and I truly enjoyed the conversation. When he reached out a few months ago asking about the podcast, I knew it was going to be a great interview. Once again, I was right. After listening to this podcast, if you would like to learn more about the wines of Macedonia, please give a listen to episode 77. And remember, if you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star review so that others can find us. We appreciate all of your support. Slancha. Winemaking and WSET Level 2 graduate, and today on The Allure of the Poor, I am sitting down with Roger Bissell, sommelier that I met in person and am so impressed with when I met him. It was one of the best master classes that I had been to in a very long time. And what was even more impressive, it was the wines of Macedonia. I mean, who drinks wines of Macedonia? I do now. Thanks to Roger. So, hi, Roger.
Ciao, how are you?
I am good. So, first off, it's Allure of the Poor, exploring the wine glass. So, what is in your glass tonight?
Okay. So, tonight, I actually have a Sicilian wine in my glass. I'm drinking a white wine from Mount Etna. It's an Etna Bianco. So it's 100% Caricante, an indigenous variety to Sicily, and it's actually from the highest altitude vineyard in all of Europe.
Oh, wow!
It is from Gracchi, that's the name of the producer.
Okay.
Etna Bianco Arcuria.
Arcuria.
So it's his cru bottling of his Caricante, and it's the highest altitude. So it's got a lot of really fresh notes, but real flintiness in it because it's black volcanic soil. So really crisp. Some might consider it almost like Burgundian in style. But it's got this beautiful crispness in it and flintiness you don't get from a lot of other white wines. That's why I like it. So
that sounds wonderful. We, on Winefabet Street, we had done Etna for the letter E. So I love the black soils. I love that volcanic, and I know what you're talking about with that flintiness. It's like, it is awesome. So.
Very food friendly. They're really, really great wines with food because the acidity in them is there, the character's there, and then that crispness that Italy is just so famous for. With really well-balanced tension and acidity. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Slancha.
Okay. Salute, Slancha. Little Irish.
Little Irish. All right. So, as I mentioned, we had met in New York City last year at the Macedonia Master Class. And so I guess now that I'm rethinking kind of what I said, who drinks Macedonia, that didn't come out well because I thought the wines were wonderful. And I really did love them, but they're not very popular in terms of going into a wine shop and finding a bottle from Macedonia. So first off, how did you hear about Macedonian wines and how did it come about that you were teaching the master class for Wines of Macedonia?
Sure, good question. What happened is, as a sommelier, and moreover, just my personal zealous pursuit of any and all knowledge, and new, when I say new, I don't mean necessarily new in how many years they've been making wine, but just new maybe to the United States. I'm trying to constantly explore new regions, and I stumbled upon some Macedonian wines a few years ago that I thought, there's some great potential for character here, and I was invited to go over there, and I toured with all of their wineries. I spent some extensive several weeks actually in Macedonia, understanding their terroir, their concepts, and their winemaking ability. And then, they'd asked if I'd be willing to deliver a master class and be an ambassador for them. So, yeah, that's how it came to pass. And because I'm really excited about a lot of countries, but specifically Macedonia, tremendous value, but also an opportunity for great growth. So.
I was very impressed with the wines there. They had that undertone we had talked about. They had that undertone of that dust, like we were talking about, and there just was enough coolness, funkiness, and that herbal kind of note that was in there that is enough to pique your interest and want you to go back for another glass.
Right. Yeah, sure. Really interesting, right? I mean, so Macedonia, land of timeless sun, so there's plenty of fruit, obviously, there. But it has that dustiness from the terroir, just like Napa Valley. And it's one of the things where you keep revisiting. You taste the wine and you come back, you're like, is that dust? And you just want to keep on
exploring
to understand what it is,
Right.
And they're getting better and better all the time. I had the opportunity to taste some new vintages since the last time I saw you over a year ago, and some of these newer vintages, the newest release vintages, are even better than before. They're getting better at learning when to pick, and but not just that, but also the work in the vineyard. Right, so that's where it all starts, right? The pruning, planting, all of that. Obviously, none of it's possible without the terroir, but that's where the real winemaking starts, is in the vineyard. They're getting better and better at that. So.
And they're known for that black horse of the grape, right? There
you go, that one.
Yes.
Black.
Black workhorse, right? Black stallion.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, yep. See, I kind of sort of remember.
That's okay.
Black stallion. That's much better than black horse. That's much better. Okay.
Well, it could be like, in Italy, the black rooster, right? Chianti Classico.
That is true.
So, right?
That's
so black horse wouldn't be that far off.
Right? You are right. Thanks for my save. Thanks for saving me. On your website, rogerbissell.co, it says that you are a certified sommelier, food and wine expert, investor, and hospitality consultant. That is really an awful lot. And they kind of all blend together, I think. So I think it kind of makes sense. But how do you segregate what you're doing or box out all of the stuff you're doing?
Sure. Well, what I've done, in my career over the last 25 years is try to blend them together as much as I can. As a result of, hospitality is hospitality. I have a huge passion for wine, obviously. It's been a hobby and a passion. And what I do is how I'm able to do this is I combine my passions into one endeavor. So when I take people on trips, cultural enrichment tours of wine country, and also Michelin restaurants, or just authentic restaurants in Italy, Spain, France, that's how I manage to combine them all. And then while I'm not traveling, I actually consult, and I I'll work actually in a restaurant here in America, in Dallas. So.
Do you actually like to cook also?
Huge cook. I'm not going to call myself a chef, but in many households across America, they rave about my food. I've learned so much over the years. I've taken culinary classes, and I think anyone that's a sommelier, or my upbringing, having been raised on a farm, you understand quality components, and you understand balance of flavors in food. So you try to mimic that the best you can. I'm not saying I succeed every time, but the best I can, I try to create those items in my own kitchen. So
you enjoy being in the kitchen?
Absolutely. It's actually one of my most favorite things to do is to cook for others. So
all right,
that's my love language, I guess.
You can come to California and cook for me whenever you want. Although I'm a very finicky eater. It's like my husband gets very upset because he'll pretty much eat anything, and I'm like the anti-Atkins person. I live on carbohydrates.
Well, then my pasta, my handmade pasta that I make would go over really, really well. I make all my pasta from scratch. And it's delicious.
Oh my God, okay. Come on, cook it up. Where did you grow up? How did you get into wine? At what age? Tell us the story of Roger and wine. How did you grow up and fall in love with wine?
Sure. I'm originally from Italy. And I came to this country when I was a little boy. And my family had bought a farm, so I grew up on a farm in Rhode Island, specifically. And I was blessed with a mother that was a true romantic, or Henry David Thoreau, or Ralph Waldo Emerson. I never ate a piece of meat from the store until I was probably 18 years old. So everything that we ate came from our farm. I was really blessed, and my mom was an excellent cook, and everything was all natural. We had blueberries and raspberries and cornfields and every vegetable imaginable, and goats and chickens and cows and peacocks and horses, and so we ate everything. We were pretty much self-sustainable. So.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome. That's all. But I have to. How do you come from Italy to Rhode Island?
It just happens, right? When you're that young, your family moves, then it is what it is. Did
you have other relatives here that they were coming to, or were they the first?
Yes. Okay. You're right. Other relatives were living here as well.
Oh.
And my father was from the United States, so.
Oh, okay. All right. A little more.
Right. But it sounds great to be on a farm, but I'll tell you, getting up at 4:30 every single morning, okay? I grew up on a farm, 350-year-old farmhouse in New England, where we only had wood stove heat, okay? So we chopped 15 cords of wood a year, and we tapped all of the trees for maple syrup, because we made our own maple syrup as well. So pretty cool, but a lot of work, right? All of us kids, we worked a lot.
Well, and then school, and then other interests after that. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. So tell me about, everybody talks about, this was my aha wine. So I know what my aha wine was. It is near and dear to me in my heart. My palate has changed, so it's not something I drink anymore, which I think is kind of a common thread. But do you have a wine that was your oh, this is wine. This is some good stuff.
I do get this question asked a lot, as we all do in the industry, and for me, I never had that one wine that was aha. I've had amazing wines over the years that I was like, wow, this is what wine can be and become. But it wasn't ever any one wine, because truthfully, I was drinking a little bit of wine every night since I was about 8 or 9 years old. But if you twisted my arm and said, Roger, what is the wine that maybe changed your life or what you think? And for me, it's a particular grape.
Okay.
And I've had many examples of this. And for me, it's Nebbiolo, but specifically in Barolo, which is near and dear to my heart. Nebbiolo gives you something that only, in my opinion, there's only basically 4 or 5 varieties in the world that can give that to you. For me, it's Pinot Noir, okay, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese, Syrah, specifically like a Côte Rôtie or a Hermitage, and then a little-known variety called Schiopettino.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah. Schiopettino is a variety from northeastern Italia, from the region of Friuli. And when I say it gives you something, I mean as it ages. When you taste a wine at its peak, it was basically the realization of a dream of a winemaker, from years ago. It gives you so much more, like secondary, tertiary, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th levels of taste that are unimaginable and just are life-changing. So for me, it would be a Barolo, and maybe a particular one that was life-changing for me would be Rivetto 1982 Barolo. That one
stands out.
Yeah, I've had a few magic bottles over the years, in that particular vintage as well. Sometimes great, but a magic bottle that, Nebbiolo gives you these dried roses and violets and truffle and tar sometimes, and it's so fresh, a 30, 40-year-old wine that just comes alive in the glass. So, yeah.
So going back to that bottle, did you purchase it? Were you someplace that you tasted it?
Okay, good question. The first time I had 1982 Barolo, it was purchased, and it was delicious. It was great. But one of those I was actually gifted. I was at Rivetto in Serralunga di Alba, and he gifted it to me, and we had it at a dinner at a Michelin restaurant with a dear friend of mine, and it was just magic. It was magic over there. It tastes completely different when you're drinking it in the Langhe, in the hills of Barolo.
Right.
For whatever reason, it just doesn't taste quite the same when you travel across the pond.
See, but that's one of the things that I love about wine is it, and I should register this or trademark it or whatever, because I say it all the time. I'm like, wine transcends you, although I'm probably not the first person who has said that.
No, that's really good, Lori. That's really good. I like it. I'm going to start to use it.
But it totally transcends you, and it amazes me how you can take a sip of a bottle of wine, and it can take you to a whole different realm, a whole different place, and you can be, enveloped in what that region has to offer, whether you've been there or not. It can take it, but if you're there, when you take a sip of a wine that does that to you, it's going to your soul. It takes you in, and you're being wrapped around by the comfort of what that region has to offer. And it's true. It transcends you, man. It's awesome.
I'm glad you brought it up, because it's magic. I talk to people all the time, and I tell them that, wine, you are the realization of dreams. You are transported to another world, the terroir, you can feel the soil, the earth, the dirt, the history, the blood, sweat, and tears that went in something. And it's so magical because hospitality, food, wine, it's the greatest connection between different cultures. It's the most intimate connection you can have with someone. And it's so magical to think that it's in something like this bottle, which might be distributed in 80 countries around the world, but somehow it makes it from that vineyard to the ship on the importation company, and then the distributor, and then the distributor sells it, and it goes to a restaurant or a supermarket or a retail store, and you buy it, and then when you buy it, it makes its way into someone's home, okay? And it forms an intimate bond with that person in their home, and they open it up. Maybe they wait a year, maybe they don't wait at all. Maybe they wait 20 years. And then you see the way it evolves, because it's a living, breathing thing, and like you said, it transcends you. Wow, talk about romantic. It's like a transcendentalist, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yep. Well, I'm a big fan. And the other thing is at the same time, one of the things I say with exploring the wine glass is I will never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass. So for that same bottle of wine that can take you and show you what it's got and like I say, transcend you to that terroir and feel all of that in your heart and soul, somebody else can pick up that same glass, that same bottle, pour it, and go, this is a good wine, and be completely happy with that. And that's, you don't have to be so elaborate, but wine can do that for you if you want it to.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about that later too, because that's a really good point you make.
Right. So let's go to your certification. You are a certified sommelier. Did you go through the court of Master Somm?
Yes. Okay. I have been through the court, but that's not where my main certification is from, like where I've really been credentialed. I'm with the Worldwide Sommelier Association, which is part of NASA, North American Sommelier, and also I'm with AIS, the Association of Italian Sommeliers.
Okay, so we're going to get back to the AIS because that's a whole cool thing. But so tell us a little bit about the certification. When you go through the classes, what are you learning? Let's not say what they want you to do. What are you learning? What do you have to go through? And I'm assuming it's probably similar to the master, where you can go at your own pace, basically.
Yeah. It's a little bit different from the court, and the court's a great organization in America, and I'm not going to say anything bad about it, but it's more structured and scholastic, maybe.
Okay. In
its approach, where you're literally going to school for several years for AIS and everything, But there's workshops, just like court. There's materials you need to read. If I showed you my library, I probably have maybe 300 books in my library, that's it, and 200 of them are going to be on wine. So it's a lot of studying and reading on your own. But moreover than that, I would say the biggest way to learn for me over the years has been drinking, yes, but going there, actually traveling there, and then also working in the restaurant industry. When you work in the industry, you're exposed to a lot more than maybe somebody that has a passion for wine and they're still working and then they're studying on the side. Working in the food and beverage industry, in any particular month, I might taste 1,500 different wines. Okay, so and as a individual, let's say the average consumer in America that has a propensity or a passion for wine, they go and they pick up and they might try a bottle every night with their spouse, their partner, whatever. Okay, that's 30 bottles in a month, or 30 wines they might try. 1,500, you can dial in really quickly, what particular varieties is supposed to taste like from a particular region. So, yeah, it's a little more intense.
And were you working in the industry while taking the classes? Do they go hand in hand?
Initially, no. I worked in finance 15 years ago and owned a wine bar and restaurant in Chicago and used that as a basis for launching my knowledge, because it was always a passion of mine since I was a little child. Even prior to that, I was, much like most of the people in America, I had a passion for wine. I always had a big cellar I would purchase. And once you really started getting into the working in the industry, that's when I really began to learn and understand and know wine.
And these classes, I'm assuming there were tests at different levels?
Oh, of course, yes. Many, many tests, lots of workshops, lots of master classes on wine over the years, like we discussed. Learning a lot from others before me that, were masters in a particular variety or region. So, yeah. It helps to, the other thing is tasting groups, a lot of people don't talk about, but sometimes having a tasting group of other people working towards a common goal can be advantageous for a distribution of information in a very expeditious manner. But sometimes they can also swing, your palate too. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think it's great for this type of knowledge, tasting groups. I don't think it's as good for your blind tasting ability and your assessment of quality a lot of times.
Right. I say that all the time that I am not a fan of having tasting notes on a bottle. I am not a fan of having a text sheet with me when I'm tasting, because my brain, if I'm tasting, then I want to taste what I'm going to taste. And I say to everybody, they ask me, well, how do you taste the blueberry, or how do you taste this or that? And I'm like, well, just because I taste blueberry doesn't mean you're tasting blueberry. So that's rule number one. But my brain, and I think a lot of people, if I look at the back of the label and it says, raspberry, whatever, blah, 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 my brain kind of automatically goes to that. And I have a lot of difficulty not getting that characteristic in there if I've been told it's in there. And I think that's where the tasting groups can be a little disheartening, when it comes to that. Like I'm just WSET 2, but we had, you did tastings, but people are like, oh, well, I'm getting this, and I'm like, I don't get that. And then after, oh, okay, I can kind of see, so.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly and 100%. And I love WSET. I am as well level 2, and I love WSET. I think it's really about the study of wine. And there's no advertising or propaganda and maybe dollars and cents of big names playing into it at all.
Right.
So,
I did love the class.
Important. I agree with you. When I go in and I set wine, when I decide to set a wine list, maybe, and I'm designing a wine list, first, forgetting about the food and everything else aside, because I tailor a wine list to the food, the menu. Whenever I taste wines, I always taste blindly. I never want to see the prices of the wine when I taste, and I never want to see text sheets. Any sales, accounting, the sales reps that come in, distributors, if they come in and give it to me, I turn it upside down. I don't want to look at it. I want to assess the quality of the wine for what it is and how I perceive it first. Yeah.
It's amazing how your brain can be swayed by reading something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could, not naming names, but I could tell you this is a $300 bottle of wine, and the manner in which you go about tasting it in your brain is going to change completely different. And then I could tell you, oh, actually it's $12.
Right. Right.
And you'd say, oh my gosh. And everyone's palate is different too. And it's a chemical reaction. It could have been what you were eating prior to. It could have been you brushed your teeth, you did this, you did that. Some people might smoke. Some people might have had something a little extra salty.
Right.
For lunch, and then they tasted it. So there's so many factors that go into wine. I'll use a quick example. When people go out to eat, and it happens a lot of times, they might have a bottle of wine, and they go out to eat at a restaurant, and they say, wow, that is an amazing bottle of wine. So then they have an amazing experience that night. They go home, they go to the wine store, they find that bottle of wine, they purchase it, and then they have it again at home, and they say, wow, this wine just doesn't taste the same. It's not as good, quote unquote, good to me this evening. And it's not because the wine was any different. 90% of the time it was because of the food that they were eating with the wine that night just happened to be a perfect combination. And on the converse side, there's people that have a wine that they really, really love. They go out to eat, they order that wine, and then they have it maybe with the wrong food, and they think, gosh, this wine just doesn't taste just as good tonight.
Right.
And it's the pairing. Pairing's so important.
And I think also the environment has a lot to do with it. Mike and I, we went to a wine region not to be named, and this was young in our wine lives, but and we were tasting these wines, and we were like, oh, these are really good. These are really good. And we bought and we bought and we bought. And we came home with maybe about a case of wine. And it was like 3 days we were in this region, right?
Right.
And so we have this case of wine. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, well, let's start drinking this wine. And we opened the first bottle. We're like, what the hell? This is not a wine we drink. It wasn't faulty in any way. It just wasn't our palate, We're like, okay, and then the next one, and we're like, we ended up giving the rest of the wine to his mother, because it just was not. We just gave up. And I think especially when you're younger in your wine world, you can be swayed by these people are so nice. Oh my God, I'm tasting at their house, or I'm tasting in the farm, and I'm petting this beautiful dog, and a horse is running past me. You get swept up in the emotion, and your palate changes. And then when that stimulus isn't around you anymore, your palate is different.
That can happen. And then also, like you had said earlier, you can go on a journey. Your palate evolves and changes in time as you learn more and more. It changes. Everyone's different. Right. People's eating styles are different too. So.
Right. It's like when you do something that's adventurous for the first time, it's like, it's so scary, and then as you move on, you're like, oh, well, that's a piece of cake. Your adventure change because of your experience, and wine is kind of the same thing. And like you said, it's a living thing, so it's going to evolve, and you're evolving, so that's a lot of dynamics going on as the years go by.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so going to the AIS that you had mentioned, so there is a photo of you being presented with a very large medal in what I have to say is the coolest looking room ever. It looks like it's like the Men of Letters room, like you need the secret knock or the special password to get in there. And so tell me about that medal and that experience. And now a word from our sponsor. Exploring the Wine Glass is brought to you by Dracaena Wines. Dracaena Wines is an artisan winery located in Paso Robles, California. They have been producing wine since 2013. Their first vintage began with one wine, their classic Cabernet Franc, which received a 91 in Wine Enthusiast. Since then, they have increased production, received several accolades, including double gold medals in the San Francisco Chronicle Wine Competition and consistent 90-plus ratings. In addition to their classic Cabernet Franc, they now produce a single vineyard, single clone Reserve Cabernet Franc and a Rosé of Syrah. Although they've increased production every year, they continue to sell out each vintage. Find out more about Dracaena Wines and their award-winning wines at dracaenawines.com and let them help turn your moments into great memories.
That picture you're referencing, and people can probably look it on my social channels and my website. I was knighted that day. So that was me being knighted. So yeah, so I was knighted in Italy, and so it was for my contributions to food and wine to the region of Italia, specifically to the region of Piemonte, Italia. But it was as a result of my lifelong dedication to Italian wine. Even though I'm an ambassador for Macedonia, I'm very passionate about Italian wines, and I'm constantly educating and training and giving people knowledge and exposing them to the food and wine of Italy. It's very near and dear to my heart, truthfully. I can't hide it. Italy is one of my favorite places in the world. It is my favorite place.
I would say, so when I was coming up with the questions, that's funny because I thought it was about being a master sommelier in that area,
No.
but you're being nice. When I was coming up with the question, I actually initially wrote, it looks like you're being knighted. And I was like, all right, no, I'm not going to say that.
That can't happen. No, but that's exactly what it is. Complete with fanfare, red carpet, I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Is there a sword? Tell me there's a sword. Is there a sword?
It's actually not a sword. It's this giant wooden, scepter.
Ah, so cool. That is so cool. I need to bow down because that might be the coolest thing ever on the face of the earth. I mean,
I'm just blessed. That's all. And know the right people, maybe.
But you know what? That doesn't just happen. That's because you've done something. You've followed your passion. You've pursued your passion. And it's wonderful to be recognized for it. But, that wouldn't have happened if you were just, oh, yeah, this is good wine. Or this is a great area.
No.
Or this, you had to have done something that showed to them that
you have to be nominated, and it's a, selection process. And, truthfully, it's really as a result of my lifelong dedication to the culture, the cuisine, the food and wine of Italy. I've taken so many people on trips to Italy, to different tastings at wineries, and I'm constantly giving classes on different Italian wines. So, yeah.
That's amazing. How did you feel when you found out you were nominated? Were you like, holy shit! Oh my god!
it was an honor, and
Did you get a telegram? How did you find out you were nominated?
Well, I got a phone call first from Italy, and then I received a formal invitation and proclamation and all this and scroll. But I was really, really honored, and actually I was happy to be recognized for my passion, because one of the most amazing things in life is when people can feel your passion. Life is so short, that it's so important to help others or to live life for passion. Don't work, if you work for passion, money will always come. So many people pursue money, and work for your passion, something that you are passionate about, and financial will always work out in the end, always. Right. And there's no better thing. No one can fake that, the authenticity of it. So.
Wow. So did you just pull that medal out for tonight? Do you have it in a frame? Is it It's
not even in a frame. Can I be? It sits in this.
Oh, it comes in a box. Oh. I would have it like with spotlights and floodlights on it, and in like what do they call it, shadow box, and
No, I'm not showy. At its very core, wine. Doesn't matter if it's $10 or if it's $100. I think I actually said this in our master class, that wine it's a social lubricant as well. And it's meant to be shared, to open up and to share with friends and family, and to break bread. And wine's an amazing thing. You could be sitting across from someone that doesn't even speak your language, and you can share wine and food together, and you have a connection.
So I'm going to share a little bit. So I went to Villeneuve to talk about Cab Franc. Okay. And incredible experience. I was there for a week. I was talking to the leading winemakers in Villeneuve and tasting all of these amazing Cab Francs, and they were throwing in Tokai there every so often, so all was good. But I was sitting next to at a dinner to a winemaker, and we were drinking his wine. Now I don't know any Hungarian. I can't even say hello in it. But I tasted the wine, and it was such a wonderful wine, and it was so nice that I took out my phone, and thank goodness for Google Translate. I typed in English and translated it to Hungarian and handed him the phone. And he read the translation, and his wife was sitting next to me, and watching his face as he read what I said, I gave him brief tasting notes, but what I thought of the wine, and watching his face while he read it, and I'm not lying, he went from like sitting like this to like this, and he takes the phone and he does this to his wife, hits his wife in the shoulders, and hands her my phone so she can read it, and the smile that went on their face, it's an amazing thing. And you're right, it brings people together. No matter what your language is, wine is a common denominator there. It's a common thread.
I couldn't agree more. That's a great story.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. I still can close my eyes and see his face of what, as he was reading how I appreciated his wine. It was amazing. But it's true. It's a common denominator. It's a common denominator. But all right. So back to you. In 2013, you were living in Chicago, which I'm very familiar with Chicago. I'm there frequently. And you moved to Florida. So right now, let's hope everybody is going to remain safe there in Florida. But that's a huge change. That is a huge change of culture, of everything. So what triggered that move? And are you a lake person or an ocean person?
I love the ocean. I love the ocean. Water makes you whole. I think, I love to fish. That's not many people in the country know that about me, that I'm an avid fisherman. I actually would do lots of tournaments for fishing in the ocean. So, what prompted the move is, I wanted to be in a little bit more relaxed environment. I'd been living in Chicago for a long time, and I wanted a little bit slower quality of life, and I wanted to be in the warmth. I was going through some personal health issues, and I just wanted to be close to warm weather, and that's what I did. And I just followed my passion. And just went for it. Southern Florida, Southwest Florida, and that's how it happened. And because most people from Chicago, when they retire, because I was surrounded by lots of retirees who have become so many great clients of mine as well, they all moved to Naples You know?
I have never really been to Naples, but I know so many people who live in Naples. I'm like, it's got to be huge. Like, it's like, there's got to be.
You know, it's so funny. Naples, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Naples has like 30,000 people.
It's like everybody goes to Naples. Everybody.
Everyone. And, you know, it's funny. It's such a huge wine community, too.
Oh.
Naples, Florida.
They have a huge wine festival, I know, because they've contacted us for Dracaena wines.
Number one in the world.
Oh.
They actually raise more money at the Naples Wine Festival every year. Anyway, I think last year they raised $18 to $19 million.
Wow.
And this year, for the next festival, you know, January, February 2020, they're going to shoot to raise $20 million. And, you know, it's a giant charity. One of the reasons why is because there's 159 private clubs and resorts in the Fort Myers, Naples area. So that's like in 35 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of wealth there, and so there's a huge conglomeration. And to put it in perspective, you know, so a population of that size, I think Naples to Fort Myers, that 35-minute radius, has close to 30 sommeliers.
Oh.
Living there, so that's a lot.
Well, that means that there's a lot of wine there. Yeah, there's a lot of wine there.
If you put that in perspective, you know, with the court, I think there's like 4 or 5 advanced level sommeliers and several that are going for their master right now.
Oh, wow.
And in a population that size, I mean, that's like basically how many are in Dallas.
Which
is a much, much bigger city. So.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So quality of living is really great in that area of the country. Life is very peaceful, very clean. Crime is like non-existent. I mean, when I was living there, no word of a lie, I could leave the keys to my car legitimately in the cup holder. My car unlocked. And I did this all the time. I don't think I ever locked my car.
Wow, that's nice. That's nice.
Yep.
Now, while you were there, you were working at the West Bay Beach Club as the food and wine manager, and you developed an award-winning wine list. So, congratulations.
It was West Bay Beach and Golf Club, and I was the director of food and beverage there. Developed award-winning wine list. The Club Managers Association of America recognized us for that. And I mean, years prior, I had developed a Wine Spectator award-winning wine list as well, but not there because it's a private club.
Oh, right.
You can't submit it for an award. Although in Chicago, I had done that already. So. Our wine is in Dracaena Wines is in a grand award-winning Wine Spectator restaurant, and that's how I learned that if it's private, you can't. It has to be a public place. So the resort is a private resort, but because the golf course can take in public, those people who go to the golf course can then also go to this restaurant. So it's considered public. Which is a shame because there's some private clubs in our country that have wine lists that would rival, some of the best wine lists in the country because of the amount of wealth. I mean, for example, at West Bay Beach and Golf Club, I had over, at one point in time, close to $500,000.
Oh.
In wine inventory at wholesale.
Yeah.
So, and that's a private club. Right. So
that's but I think if you look at it from the Wine Spectator part, correct. I get why, they don't want to say, "Ooh, this place is fantastic." No, you can't go there, Yeah.
And then with Wine Spectator too, you actually, a lot of people don't realize, you actually have to pay for the application for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. But like where we are, the resort, Crystal Springs Resort, it's restaurant Latour. They have like 40.
Like Chateau Latour?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like 45,000 bottles in their caves, and
Wow.
it's we're honored to be in there. But the thing, I had interviewed her for the podcast, and the people who go there, they're not ordering. They're ordering local wines. They're ordering California wines. So
Right.
it's very different. But when you walk through the caves that she has, and you see the wines that they have, I was drooling. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
And they have a complete room in the cave dedicated to Latour.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the places, I'm going to have to give a shout out to one of the places in the country that I drool over in their wine. It's in Tampa, Florida. A lot of people will know it. It's called Burns Steakhouse.
Okay. I do not know it, but
it has the largest wine list in the world.
Wow.
It's in Tampa. They have over 32,000 different labels.
Wow.
It's incredible. They have verticals of Lafite back to the 1800s.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous. And they have their own warehouse. This restaurant has been there. It's a steakhouse for like 100 years, and they have a warehouse across the street just for their wine, in addition to the giant cellar they have at the restaurant.
That's amazing. Yeah. But when I was there, she was explaining what they have to go through in order to get the grand award, and it's crazy. It's crazy what they it's just they
your inventories,
and then they come in and they pick one bottle that you gotta like OSHA proof. Right. It's crazy. Yeah. It is crazy. So congratulations on the awards. And you had mentioned earlier that you choose the wine to pair the food, not the other way around. Right.
When I design a wine list?
Yes.
When I design a wine list, I let the chef create his menu. And then I sit and choose wines that pair with the food. Now, if I'm designing a wine dinner, I do it the other way around.
Okay.
Because I like to select the wines I want to highlight, and then with the chef, I'll sit down and design a perfect menu to enhance the flavor of the wine. Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, you moved in 2018. You moved to Dallas, so you don't like staying in one place. What's your complete sidebar? What's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Oh, okay. So I'm a Sagittarius. I'm the same way. I'm like, all right, I did this. I gotta move on. I did this. I gotta move on. Right. So you moved to Dallas, and that is where you currently are. Correct?
I'm currently residing in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, and you are now currently working for Chef Giuliano Matarese?
No, not currently. I am completely done with my collaboration project with Chef Giuliano Matarese.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that collaboration.
Yeah, so, when I came to Dallas, I came here, for new opportunities, and an exciting possibility to collaborate with different people, right? And Chef Giuliano Matarese represented an exciting collaboration for me as well. He had Michelin experience. So I came to Dallas, though, for one major reason, is that Dallas is the most explosive city in the country currently. It's the fastest growing. And there's a huge opportunity here to shape the food and beverage future because of what a fast growing and volatile market it is. And I saw a definitive need to help educate and to help share my passion with a very fast-growing population. So,
and
there's a lot of wealth here as well, which helps in the wine industry, because they tend to go hand in hand. But
so in this collaboration, did you help him develop his wine list for his restaurant? Did you?
Yeah. I developed a really great, authentic Italian, the best Italian wine list in Dallas. And it's 100, that restaurant has a 100% Italian-only wine list.
Oh, okay.
With over 220 different varieties. 220
Wow.
different varieties of wine.
All Italian. Well, everybody I know who studies Italy is like, they love it, but they hate it because there's so many different varieties and so many different little itty-bitty regions.
Italy has over 500 varieties of wine.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot. That's a lot. And then
that's a lot.
And the regions, the AVA, well, not their AVAs, but their districts are all, right? There's loads of them.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
I just want to share it because I deliver so many classes on wine, around the country. And a very famous artist in Italy, a good friend, Purple Rita, her name is, or Rita Barbero. She has drawn wine maps for me. Like, this is a map of Italy, as you can see. And if you notice, there's different colors.
Yes.
This is the 20 regions of Italy, and each one is drawn with a native variety from that region. So it's drawn with wine.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
That is so cool. And I have over like 20 different maps from her, and I use these in my my classes. So I'll deliver a master class, let's say on Piemonte. So here's the region of Piemonte.
Right.
And then specifically Barolo. These are the 11 communes in Barolo.
Oh my God. That is beyond cool. Beyond cool.
They're drawn with wine.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Oh my God, that's awesome. See, so now everybody who's listening to the podcast, you now specifically need to go to YouTube and you need to fast forward to at least to this point so you can see those pictures, because that is absolutely incredible. They are amazing.
Everyone that sees those maps, I've shown them to thousands of people, and everyone that sees them says, "Can I buy those? Can I buy those from you?" They all want to buy them from me and frame them, but I just use them for education. But really, really cool and it evolves with time because it's wine. So the shades of the map changes, like Barbera and Barolo, and it's all native. Yeah, it makes it easy to learn too. So.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. That is awesome. So now that you're done with your collaboration, it kind of opens up your time to do other things. And your latest venture now is you are hosting events, Dolce Vino events. And
so I've been doing that for the last several months. But I host events called Dolce Vino. Remember how we said that wine shouldn't be pretentious, okay? Wine is approachable. So once per month at different venues throughout Dallas, I host a wine class / networking event. And at the networking event, I invite one interesting person, maybe a famous person from Dallas, and we do an interview as well. But it's where people that are novices, and then I have even sommeliers that come to the class too. In a very unpretentious setting, we get the chance to try 4 different wines and understand the relationship between it and get the opportunity to network with people from different walks of life, removing all these pretentious barriers and making it about wine. The reason why it's called Dolce Vino is because in Italia, we say the Dolce Vita. Now, I understand, to all my Italian friends out there that are listening, it's grammatically incorrect to say Dolce Vino. It would be Il Vino Dolce. Okay? But from a marketing perspective.
Artistic license. Artistic license.
So this is the Dolce Vino. So people have an opportunity to come to these classes, and it's just an exciting. It's more about the excitement of sharing with others. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's once a month, and they can sign up. And I noticed your recent one, you just announced where it was. So it's always at a different location, you said.
Always at a different location, because I try, what it is, and number 2, they get the materials, and then they have the opportunity to buy any of the wines if they like at really, a little bit above wholesale, like retail prices, because I tend to choose wines that aren't as mainstream, but great gems.
Well, who wants to go to a dinner if they can, go to, Total Wine or whatever and pick up the same bottle, right? They're going to you so they can experience something that's not at Bevmo.
Correct. And I might have, a Napa Valley cab, but it's not going to be a super mainstream. It's going to be something maybe off the beaten path that's like, wow, this is really great. This is, So I try to shine a little bit of light on local entrepreneurs and business people, number 1. And then number 2, shine light on some wineries that don't get the opportunity. So
that's wonderful. And it's
the sweet life, because it's called the Dolce Vino. In Italy, we call it the Dolce Vita, because it's about slowing down life and enjoying what you have and who you're with. Same thing with my class. So.
And when they go, each time it's a different theme, like either a different varietal or a different region or something like that?
Right. Well, I always pick 2 white wines and 2 red wines.
Okay.
Because I want to appeal to,
everybody.
Same amount of people as well. Like some people aren't partial to red wine, some people aren't partial to white. So I go half and half. So, or maybe 1 white, 1 rosé, 2 reds. So.
Okay. But each time it's an educational experience and a community coming together to talk about whatever it is.
Really, really fun events. Everyone that has gone has really enjoyed, and it's an opportunity to connect with others and at an educational level.
Fantastic. So now tell the listeners or viewers, where can they find you on the socials?
Sure. So I have my own Instagram channel. It's Roger, Roger _ Bissell, B like boy, ISSELL. And then on Facebook you can find me at Meet Roger Bissell. And I have a website called rogerbissell.co. And all my news and exciting events will be happening there, and any of my press and media, all of that.
And so I'm going to be a little, like me here. Are you coming back to New York soon?
Yeah, so in 2020, I'll be delivering 4 master classes on wine.
Okay.
And I'll be in New York twice. So I'm working out the details of what exact month that's going to be. But yes, I'll be back in New York, very soon. Okay. Very soon. And I'll be in Chicago as well, because like this last time I was in New Jersey, New York, Chicago, LA. So yeah.
Can you share what the class will be, or is it too early?
I can. I'll be doing a Macedonian class again, but I'll be doing some Italian master classes as well.
Oh, okay. All right, you know who to hit up to come.
I'm still waiting. I need to. I want to do Cab Franc. I'm still waiting, for some Cab Franc. I'm a huge fan of Cab Franc. You piqued my interest earlier.
Oh, well, you know what? You tell me when you're in New York, and I will bring you a bottle without a doubt. Without a doubt. We'll do a little private tasting after the class.
Excellent. Sounds like a deal.
Yeah, we have 2 Cab Francs. So
okay.
Yeah, so we can work that out.
I haven't had the pleasure of trying those wines yet, so I really, really would look forward to trying them.
Oh, thank you. Well, I would love to hear what you think about them. I mean, it's, you talk about passion. That's why we chose Cab Franc. That's what we love, but
where did that come from?
Why Cab Franc?
Yeah, where did your passion come from?
So we were very early on. Mike and I were out in California, and we walked into William Harrison Winery on the Silverado Trail, and the woman behind the counter, she's pouring for us, and the woman behind the counter is like, "Oh, well, we just had some wine club members come in, and we have this bottle. Do you want to try it?" Now, who says no to that? So,
would say no.
Yeah. So we said sure. So she poured it without even telling us what it was, and we both tasted it, and we're like, "Oh my God, this is great. What is this?" And then she told us it was Cab Franc. So we purchased Cab Franc, and then we were on a mission to find other wineries that made Cab Franc. So when we decided to start Dracaena Wines, we were like, all right, we're gonna focus in on what we love. And we decided, this is what we want to make is Cab Franc. And in all honesty, there's two things, right? If it didn't go well, we were going to be drinking a lot of wine, right? So we picked a varietal that we would like. Luckily, we don't get to drink very much of ours. We've sold out every vintage since we started. But that's where it came from. And then I'm a Jersey girl. I'm a little snarky at times, and there's every wine holiday on the face of the earth, but there wasn't Cab Franc Day. So I was like, I'm starting Cab Franc Day. So 2015, when we had just released our first vintage, 2013, I went to social media and I started hashtag Cab Franc Day, and it trended third on Twitter. and
wow.
And every year now on December 4th, because that's the anniversary of Cardinal Richelieu's death, that's Cab Franc Day, and every year I host Cab Franc Day on Twitter, and every year it's trended, and we get more and more wineries that participate in it, and it's taken on.
Wow.
It's now international. I mean, I have people in 5 different countries. No, they're not. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody there.
I need to make a connection.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I know a gentleman in Bordeaux, and he makes Cab Franc, and he's been trying to, but nobody in Bordeaux, he's like, oh, they're not doing anything. But yes, you need to make me a connection.
Okay, we need to talk, I need to be able to get Chinon. I mean, Cab Franc, Chinon, producers in Chinon need to get involved. I mean, that's the birthplace, right?
Yeah. So, it is internationally recognized now, so I would love to have them involved. Another
example of passion reigning supreme there, though, right, for you?
Yes. And it is, I am a Cab Franc, champion.
Well, your passion is palpable.
Thank you. All right, so are you ready for my little game of opposites?
Okay, I have a little bit of intrepidation, but I'm ready for your game. Okay, right. Tell me the rules, how it works. I'm ready to play.
All right, it is super, super simple. I'm going to say 2 things that are opposites of each other.
Oh, no.
And all you have to do is, one of them is going to resonate with you faster. That's all it is. Okay. So I start off with non-wine opposites, and then we get into wine opposites. I kind of get, got to warm up those muscles before we get going into wine.
All right. I think I'm ready, but I have some fear, but I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Super simple. Night or day?
Night.
Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Black or white?
White.
Walk or run?
Run.
Food or drink? That's a tough one for you. Old world, new world?
Old world.
Bubbles or still?
Bubble.
Okay. Oak or stainless?
Stainless.
Drink now or drink later?
Drink later.
Blend or varietal?
Varietal.
Vintage or non-vintage?
Vintage.
Cork or screw cap?
Depends, but I'm going to go with cork.
Napa or Sonoma?
Sonoma.
Commercial or indigenous?
Indigenous.
Bordeaux or Rhone?
Rhone.
Warm climate, cool climate?
You already know the answer. Cool climate?
Yeah. That's it, see?
Okay, wow, that was easy.
Yeah, see? Super, super easy. Super easy.
Super easy.
It's just, you know, kind of something goofy.
Yeah. Well, I forgot to mention one other thing. I just wanted to let you know what was going on. You know, you had asked earlier about what I've got coming up.
Yes.
I've got this really big announcement, you know.
Oh, is this going to be the first time you announce it?
I haven't announced it yet.
No, I mean, like, will this be the first time you announce it to anybody?
My first time announcing, right here. On your, yeah. Okay. It's kind of a big deal.
Okay.
All right. So, on October 15th, I am going to be in Chicago, and I will be having a collaboration with the Michelin chef, executive chef Sujan Sarkar of Rouge, R-O-O-H. Have you heard of Rouge?
I have.
It's in New York. It's in Chicago now. They just opened up in Chicago. And I'm going to be doing an exclusive wine dinner with him that night, but I'm going to be doing basically a huge dolce vino, my dolce vino, at Rouge, Chicago that night, and then afterwards, an amazing wine dinner designed by me and the chef on October 15th.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Really?
So how can the people in Chicago, or people who want to travel to Chicago, how can they get involved in that? How can they sign up for that?
Sure. So I'm going to be releasing it on my site, on my social. So if you follow me on my social, which is Roger, R-O-G-E-R, _ Bissell, B-I-S-S-E-L-L. It will be on Eventbrite. It will also be on Rouge's website. And there's going to be a ton of media, like all, local news, Fox, ABC, NBC, all of the media outlets are going to be covering it. It's a great collaboration, but for me, it's going to kind of be a return home.
Right. Like
10 years later to Chicago. And it's going to be an amazing dinner. They've only been open a couple of months now. His food is absolutely dynamite, amazing. It's modern Indian fusion. So for all the people that like Indian food, and then perfectly paired with wine, it's going to be a great night. We're excited about that.
Wow, that is awesome. Yay! And you heard it here first.
and just so you know, I announced it here on your podcast first.
Exploring the Wine Glass gets the first announcement, baby.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me. And it was so much fun. And you need to come back to New York.
Okay.
I have to.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your podcast today.
Thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And there's going to be a little bit more wine in my glass later, so I hope there's a little bit more in yours later also.
I've got some dinner plans, a few friends coming over for dinner, so there might be a couple of other different bottles.
There you go. I would love to see, you got to send me some of your faves. We'll see.
Okay.
And
we'll do.
We'll share a little bit off mic of who we've competed against and how we've done.
Okay. All right.
All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I enjoy it. Until next time, and I'll see you in New York sometime soon.
Yes, thank you. This has been another episode of Exploring the Wine Glass. Thanks for listening. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like me to discuss, please reach out on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Exploring the Wine Glass. I'm also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt-Budd. Of course, you can always email me at exploringthewineglass@gmail.com. If you enjoyed our podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast catcher to help others find me more easily. Until next week, sláinte!